Hollywood legend versus new star. Al Pacino defeats Damson Idris live. Los Angeles, fall of 2025. The CinemaScope studio is ablaze with lights, but the air is heavy with tension. Today is not just an interview, it's a war of generations. Al Pacino, an 85-year-old icon whose voice in The Godfather still resonates in the hearts of millions, is sitting across from Damson Idris, a 33-year-old youth favorite whose star has risen with snowfall. Everyone knows that a month ago Pacino called Idris overrated in a high-profile interview with Variety, and now Hollywood is holding its breath. Will the young actor stand up to the legend, or will his career crumble in front of millions? Before you go to the story, please write which state you are watching from, and we will proceed to the interview. Los Angeles, autumn 2025. The studio of the CinemaScope television channel in the heart of Hollywood glowed with lights. The air buzzed with voices, mingled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee from the buffet and the faint aroma of expensive perfumes worn by the guests. The live broadcast of the show Cinema Today drew a packed audience. Older cinephiles who grew up on The Godfather sat alongside younger fans who followed every role of Damson Idris in Snowfall. The evening's topic, Hollywood, from legends to new stars, promised a warm conversation, but everyone knew. A spark had flared between Al Pacino and Damson Idris after Pacino's scandalous interview with Variety, where he called Idris an overrated product of marketing. Backstage, the studio smelled of hairspray and hot plastic from the lighting equipment. Al Pacino, dressed in a dark suit with the top button of his shirt undone, stood by a mirror in the dressing room, holding a water bottle. His face, etched with wrinkles, was calm, but his eyes betrayed fatigue. At 85, he had seen it all: triumphs, failures, betrayal, and love. Damson Idris, in a stylish blazer and jeans, waited nearby, scrolling through messages on his phone. His smile was easy, but his fingers nervously tapped the phone's case. The host, Carla Rivera, a charismatic 50-year-old journalist with impeccable diction, stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause. The audience was full. Older viewers in suits and dresses sat next to younger ones in hoodies and sneakers. Cameras hummed, operators checked angles, and spotlights bathed the stage in warm light. Carla beamed, greeting the crowd. "Good evening, Los Angeles. Tonight, we have special guests, the legend of cinema, Al Pacino, and rising star Damson Idris." Pacino entered first, his walk slow but confident, like a man who knew his worth. Idris followed, his smile radiant, but his eyes carefully scanned the room. They sat in modern leather chairs, separated by a glass table with water carafes and glasses. The atmosphere was warm, almost festive. Older audience members whispered about Scarface, while the younger crowd shared Idris memes on social media. "Mr. Pacino," Carla began, her voice soft but clear, "you're an icon. Your roles shaped an entire generation. Damson, you're the new face of Hollywood, winning hearts. How do you see the connection between your eras?" Pacino leaned back in his chair, his raspy voice filling the studio. "Cinema is about truth. Doesn't matter if it's the 70s or the 2020s. If you're honest on screen, people feel it. I see a lot of energy in new actors, but sometimes too much noise. You have to dig deeper, find the soul." The audience murmured in approval. Idris nodded, his smile genuine. "I agree," he replied, his voice confident but respectful. "But truth today moves faster. We live in times where you're either loud or overlooked. I try to tell stories that matter to my generation, and I do it the best I can." Carla smiled, sensing the conversation flowing smoothly. "Well said. Let's talk about your latest projects." The first 20 minutes of the interview were flawless. Pacino shared memories of filming The Godfather, recounting how he nearly lost the role of Michael Corleone due to studio doubts. The audience laughed when he joked about his early failed auditions. Idris spoke about his childhood in London's Peckham, how his mother didn't believe he'd become an actor until she saw him on screen. The crowd applauded when he mentioned his new role in a major blockbuster. The atmosphere was cozy, like a family living room where the older generation shared wisdom and the younger brought energy. Everything changed when Carla asked a seemingly innocent question. Mr. Pacino, you've seen many changes in Hollywood. What do you think of today's actors, like Damson? Do they have the same fire you had in your time? The room fell silent. Everyone knew about Pacino's variety comment, but no one expected him to revisit it. Pacino rubbed his chin thoughtfully, his eyes narrowing. I respect those who work, he began, his voice slow but sharp. But today a lot of actors are about marketing, not talent. Their names buzz in headlines, but where's their depth? Damson, you're a good actor, but sometimes it feels like your fame outpaces your merits. That's not an insult, it's the truth. The audience gasped. Cameras swung to Idris. His smile vanished, his jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. His dark, piercing eyes met Pacino's. Mr. Pacino, I respect your opinion, he said, his voice steady but laced with tension. But I disagree. I didn't wait for a chance to be handed to me. I took it. I worked to be here. If you think I'm overrated, that's your right. But I'm not a product of marketing. I'm a man fighting for his place. The room erupted in whispers. Older audience members nodded, muttering, Pacino's right, the young are too hasty. The younger crowd rallied behind Idris, some shouting, tell him, Damson. Carla, sensing the conversation slipping out of control, tried to intervene. This is an interesting discussion. Let's talk about how you prepare for roles. But Pacino cut in, his voice sharper. Kid, I'm not saying you don't try. I'm saying you're not there yet. I've seen your roles. You're good, but you're not great. And instead of listening, you're arguing. This isn't about marketing, it's about soul. Idris clenched his fists under the table, his voice steady but trembling with restrained anger. I'm not arguing. I'm defending myself. You called me overrated in the national press. You think I'll just sit here and swallow that? I respect you, but I won't let you humiliate me in front of everyone. The audience buzzed. Carla raised her hand, trying to regain control. All right, let's tone it down. We have plenty more topics. But Idris, locking eyes with Pacino, pressed on. Let's talk openly. Why did you say that? Is it my roles? The way I look? Or because I'm younger and haven't faced the same trials as you? I want to understand. The room froze. Carla paled, her smile strained. Pacino frowned, his eyes flashing. Don't you dare play the race card, he snapped. This isn't about skin color. It's about what I see on screen. You haven't proven you're great yet. And instead of taking criticism, you're getting defensive. I'm not defensive, Idris shot back. I'm demanding respect. You think you can call me a product and walk away clean? I'm here, right in front of you, and I'm ready to talk. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, and I'll listen. But don't belittle me. The audience was transfixed, sensing they were witnessing something historic. Older viewers whispered, Pacino knows what he's talking about, while the younger crowd cheered. Idris got him. Carla, realizing she was losing control, tried again. Okay, let's take a moment and move to audience questions. But the tension between Pacino and Idris was too thick to dissipate. Pacino leaned forward, his voice quieter but piercing. You want to know what's wrong? Fine. I'll tell you. Your roles, they're flashy, but they lack weight. You act, but I don't see you living in the frame. And it's not because you're young. It's because you haven't felt the kind of pain that makes an actor real. Idris leaned back in his chair, his eyes blazing with anger, but he held himself together. Instead of exploding, he nodded slowly. All right, he said. You think I don't know pain? You think I'm just some guy who hit the jackpot? I grew up in Peckham, where every day was a fight. I've seen friends die, my family struggle. I carry that in every role. If you don't see it, maybe the problem's not with me. The audience erupted in applause, especially the younger crowd. Pacino sat silently, his face unreadable. Carla, sensing the show was teetering on the edge, called out, "Wonderful. Let's move to audience questions." But the conflict had already transcended a typical interview. Every word, every gesture from the two actors felt like part of an invisible duel. The cinemascope studio buzzed like a beehive. The spotlights blinded, and the scent of hot plastic from the equipment mingled with faint traces of coffee from the buffet. The audience was split. Older viewers, raised on Joshua Eno's films, whispered about his wisdom, while younger fans of Idris buzzed with excitement, cheering his boldness. Cameras caught every movement, every glance, and social media exploded with hashtag Pacino versus Idris. The interview, which had started as a warm discussion about Hollywood, had become a tense clash of two eras. Carla Rivera, the host, had just tried to lighten the mood with a joke about a toast to Hollywood when Pacino unexpectedly praised Idris for his role in Snowfall. The audience erupted in applause, but the tension didn't dissipate. Idris, though grateful for Pacino's words, sensed they were not just a compliment but a challenge. Pacino, for his part, saw potential in Idris, but still believed he lacked the fire that only years of pain and struggle could ignite. Carla, sensing the show was balancing on the edge of chaos, decided to open the floor to the audience to steer the conversation back on track. A microphone was handed to an older woman in an elegant blazer, her voice trembling with excitement. "Mr. Pacino," she began, "I grew up on your films. You're my hero. But why are you so harsh on young actors like Damson? Don't they deserve a chance?" The room buzzed, with some older audience members nodding and the younger crowd tensing. Pacino took a slow breath, his fingers tightening slightly. He glanced at Idris, then at the woman. "I'm not harsh," he replied, his raspy voice quiet but piercing. "I'm honest. I've seen this industry break people. Talent isn't about likes online or loud headlines. It's about giving so much that there's nothing left. Damson," he paused, his eyes narrowing. "He's talented, but I want him to dig deeper. Because I know he can." Idris tilted his head slightly, his eyebrows rising. He hadn't expected this shift. The audience fell silent, sensing something was changing. Carla, seizing the moment, tried to build on it. "That's interesting. Damson, how do you respond to that?" "It's almost a compliment." Idris smiled, but it was a tight smile. "I appreciate honesty," he said, his voice steady but edged with restrained anger. "But I don't agree that I lack depth. I bring everything I have to every role. If you don't see it, Mr. Pacino, maybe you're looking in the wrong place." The room erupted in whispers. The younger crowd clapped, someone shouted, "Go Damson." Older audience members exchanged glances, some frowning. Carla, sensing the situation heating up again, rushed to intervene. "All right, let's take another question from the audience." But Pacino raised his hand, stopping her. His movement was slow but deliberate. The room froze. He turned to Idris, his eyes, once cold, now seeming warmer. "Hold on," he said, his voice softer. "I want to say something. I watched Snowfall. Your role. Franklin Saint. It was good. Really good. There was a moment, in the third season, when you're standing in front of your mother, and in your eyes, everything. Pain, anger, love. I believed you. Not every actor can do that." The audience gasped. Idris froze, his eyes widening in surprise. He hadn't expected praise, especially after Pacino had called him overrated in the press. The younger crowd buzzed, older audience members nodded, as if acknowledging Pacino's fairness. Carla, sensing the tension easing, smiled. "Now that's a twist. Damson, what do you say?" Idris exhaled slowly, his shoulders relaxing. He looked at Pacino, a flicker of respect mixed with caution in his eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That means a lot. I grew up watching your films. Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon. You showed me that acting isn't just words, it's life. I'm trying to live up to that." The audience erupted in applause. Older viewers smiled, feeling Pacino had passed on his wisdom, while the younger crowd cheered Idris for holding his ground. Carla, triumphant, seized the moment. This is what I call a real conversation. Let's keep going. We've got more questions. But while the atmosphere warmed, the tension didn't fully dissipate. Idris, grateful for the praise, felt Pacino's words were both a compliment and a challenge. Pacino saw potential in Idris, but still believed he hadn't yet reached the depth that comes with time. The next question came from a young man in a hoodie, holding the microphone a bit nervously. Damson, what's it like being a young actor in Hollywood when legends like Pacino question your talent? And, Mr. Pacino, don't you think young actors face more pressure than in your time? Idris smiled, this time more genuinely. It's tough, he said. You're constantly proving you're not just a pretty face or a social media hype. But I believe pressure makes us stronger. I don't want pity. I want respect for my work. Pacino nodded, his eyes glinting. Pressure's always been there, he said. In my day, you could get kicked out of a studio for one bad day. But you're right, Damson. Pressure shapes you. And I see you're not breaking. That's something. The audience clapped again, the applause warmer, less divided. But Idris knew this was just the beginning. Pacino's praise was a step toward reconciliation, but the challenge remained. He knew he'd have to prove, not just to Pacino, but to himself, that he was worthy of standing alongside the legends. Carla, sensing the show was back on track, decided to cement the moment. I propose a toast to Hollywood, past and future, she said, raising a glass of water. The audience laughed, joining her jest. Pacino and Idris exchanged a look, not quite friendly, but with a hint of mutual respect. The interview continued, but everyone in the room knew this conversation was far from over. The CinemaScope studio hummed with tension and emotion. The spotlights carved out the faces of Al Pacino and Damson Idris, seated in their leather chairs, separated only by a glass table. The audience was divided. Older viewers, raised on The Godfather, whispered about Pacino's wisdom, while younger fans of Idris buzzed with excitement, cheering his courage. Cameras captured every movement, every glance, and social media exploded with hashtag Pacino versus Idris. The interview, which had begun as a warm discussion about Hollywood, had become an arena where two eras collided. Carla Rivera had just lightened the mood with a toast to Hollywood when Pacino unexpectedly praised Idris for his role in Snowfall. The audience erupted, but the tension lingered. Idris, though grateful, sensed Pacino's words were both a compliment and a challenge. Pacino saw potential in Idris, but still believed he lacked the depth that only years of struggle could bring. Carla, sensing the show was teetering on the edge, opened the floor to the audience to steer the conversation. A microphone was handed to a young woman, a film school student, her voice trembling with excitement. Damson, what's it like hearing criticism from a legend like Pacino? And, Mr. Pacino, do you believe the younger generation can reach your level? Idris smiled, this time more genuinely, though his eyes held caution. Criticism hurts, he said, his voice calm but firm. Especially from someone whose films inspired you your whole life. But I believe criticism is a chance. I don't want to be praised for who I'm not. I want to prove I can be better. And I'm grateful to Mr. Pacino for throwing me this challenge. The audience clapped, especially the younger crowd. Pacino nodded, his face unreadable, but a faint smile flickered in his eyes. Well said, he replied, his raspy voice quiet but piercing. I don't doubt you can, kid. But it's not about being better than me or anyone else. It's about being real. I saw your work in Snowfall, and there's a spark. But a spark is just the start. You've got to ignite a fire. The audience erupted again. Older viewers nodded, feeling Pacino spoke from the heart, while the younger crowd cheered Idris for his dignified response. Carla, triumphant, jumped in. This is what I call a real conversation. Let's take another question. The microphone passed to an older man in a tweed blazer, holding it confidently, as if used to speaking publicly. Mr. Pacino, he began, I've seen all your films. You're our hero. But why were you so hard on Damson? And Damson, how do you plan to answer this challenge? Pacino leaned back, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. I didn't criticize to humiliate, he said. I said what I see. Hollywood's changed. Today, you can become a star overnight, but that doesn't mean you're ready to carry the weight. Damson, he paused, looking at Idris, I see hunger in you. That's good, but hunger needs direction. I want you to show us not just good acting, but something that'll stay in history. Idris listened, his face serious. He sensed Pacino wasn't just challenging him, but opening a door to dialogue. Instead of lashing out or defending himself, he chose to step forward. I hear you, he said, his voice quiet but confident. You want me to dig deeper. And I will. Not to prove anything to you, but for myself. I grew up watching your films, Mr. Pacino. You showed me that acting isn't about fame, it's about truth. And I promise, I won't stop until I find that truth in me. The audience roared with applause. Older viewers clapped, feeling Pacino had passed on his experience, while the younger crowd cheered Idris for showing maturity. Carla, sensing the show had hit its peak, seized the moment. This is incredible. Let's wrap up on this note. Mr. Pacino, Damson, what would you say to each other in closing? Pacino looked at Idris, his eyes warmer than at the start. Keep working, kid, he said. And don't be afraid to fall. Because it's only by falling that you learn to stand. Idris nodded, his smile genuine. Thank you, Mr. Pacino. I won't forget this. And I hope one day you'll see a role of mine and say, that's it. The audience rose, giving a standing ovation. Cameras zoomed in on Pacino and Idris, two generations, two worlds, finding common ground for a moment. Carla, beaming, closed the show. Thank you to our guests and to you, our audience. This was a night we won't forget. As the spotlights dimmed and the audience began to disperse, Pacino and Idris lingered backstage. The smell of coffee mixed with the faint dust of the old stage. Pacino stood by the exit, holding his coat. Idris approached, his steps unhurried. Mr. Pacino, he said softly, I meant it. Thank you for your words. They mean a lot. Pacino looked at him, his eyes glinting. Don't give up, he replied. And don't listen to anyone who says you're already at the top. You're just starting. They shook hands, firmly, like men who respected each other but knew their journey wasn't over. Idris walked to his dressing room, his heart pounding with a mix of pride and determination. Pacino, standing by the door, looked out at the city lights through a window. He felt that maybe, just maybe, this kid could leave his mark. The next day, headlines and social media posts buzzed, Pacino and Idris. From conflict to respect, Idris takes on the Legends Challenge. In Los Angeles cafes, older cinephiles sipped coffee and discussed the interview, agreeing Pacino was tough but fair. Younger fans on Twitter made memes, but now they were about unity, not war. Idris sat in his West Hollywood apartment, looking out at the city through glass walls. On the table lay a script for a new film, a complex drama about loss and redemption. He knew this role would be his chance to show the depth Pacino spoke of. He wasn't sure if he'd succeed, but for the first time, he felt ready to try. Pacino, in his room at the Beverly Hilton, held an old photo from the Serpico set. He smiled, remembering when he, too, was called overrated. Maybe this kid had a shot, he thought. The interview became a legend, talked about for years. It didn't solve all of Hollywood's problems or reconcile generations forever. But it showed that even in the sharpest conflicts, there was room for dialogue, respect, and hope. And for many who witnessed that night, it was the start of something new, not just for Pacino and Idris, but for cinema itself.